Oh, I remember this hand. This is where I get, as the internet kids say, pwned by Mr. Rast. Pretty standard hand to raise with early position. I have ace-king hearts, looking for some action. Really looking for a couple callers. It's a good draw hand, you know, because I have the flush draw and whatnot.
Yeah, so Daniel makes it 30, and it gets to me. I have queen 9 offsuit, which in my estimation is probably slightly too weak a hand just to call, even in position, against a tough player. So I 3-bet him to about 100.
There was another option, you know.
Yeah.
He could have folded once in a while, but no, he didn't want to.
So Zvi cold calls, which is kind of a weird play considering that he has 1300.
Yeah, this changed things for me because I was actually going to be happy to sort of play a smaller pot out of position with a pretty strong hand, kind of like disguise the value, the strength of my hand. But then when Zvi called, I thought, you know, he has a hand like tens, it looks like. And I pretty much, I think I have his range narrowed down to like middle pairs and stuff. So I felt like I can re-raise him in position, get you out, because you're obviously folding queen 9 offsuit, and then I can play heads up with Zvi in a spot where Zvi can never re-raise me there. He's always just going to call me or fold. So it felt like the right play. And based on Zvi's stack size, I felt like 320 was plenty, because like he said, he only had about 1300. And, you know, Brian here is not just going to, you know, call me with a marginal hand.
So, yeah, I definitely can't call here in my spot. And I think, again, the standard play, just like originally, would be to fold. I think I made a decision here. Maybe it was because Daniel's re-raise size was like a little small. I'm not exactly sure, but I made a decision that I thought that it was a good chance he didn't have aces or kings, although I was pretty sure that he had a premium hand. I mean, I don't think, especially given Zvi's cold call, Daniel's going to be light here with air very often at all, if ever. But I decided to make a play. We were pretty deep. I had over 4,000, so it puts Daniel in a tough spot. And we were just talking about this, but it kind of puts him at an inflection point where, you know, I'm making it now 830. It's over 500 more to him, and you know I've, you know, put in now just under a quarter of my stack. If Daniel re-raises me, he's basically committing to all 4,000. So I'm risking my 830. And making him thinking about playing for 4,200. So it puts him in a very tough spot. You know, he can't really re-raise me back as a bluff, and you know, he kind of has to commit a lot more to win the 1,000 that's in the middle right now.
And at this point, I really don't feel like it's because we're so deep. I mean, we're over 400 big blinds deep. If I only had 150 to 200 big blinds, it's a pretty easy decision. Let's get it in. If you have queens or jacks, which he could, you know, then we race. But because we were that deep, and my hand was a little too strong, it felt like to just fold against Brian, because he is a tricky kind of player, that I elected to do something that I wasn't even sure about at the time, to just call. I think my call screams of a limited range against this, so it's going to be easier for him to play post flops. I really don't like the situation. He knows now that I have some sort of big pair, or ace king, you know, ace king, and possibly ace queen, which is even less likely that I have ace queen. So he can narrow my hand down pretty.
Yeah, I would never expect you to have ace queen offsuit. Maybe ace queen suited, just for the extra value of flopping flush draws and stuff. But you know what? This is actually a spot where you know, I would not put it past Daniel to have aces or kings had he played it this way. Just because, you know, if he shoves there, it's very strong. And if I had a hand like jacks or even queens, I could maybe make a big fold with those hands. You know, because I'd have to call over 3,000 more. I wouldn't even be getting 2-1. So, you know, if Daniel had aces or kings, I would actually expect him to call here a decent chunk of the time, you know, to play them tricky. So anyway, we get to the flop. It's 10-7 deuce with 2 spades, which is a bad flop for both of us, but you know, doesn't help either of our hands. And Daniel checks. Now I'm essentially stuck in a spot where, you know, I'm either crushed by an overpair, you know, jacks, queens, kings, or aces, or, you know, and I don't expect Daniel to fold with, you know, almost 2,000 in the pot, and considering the fact that he knows I'm pretty tricky and sometimes I'm going to have air here. But what I am thinking is that if Daniel only has ace high, like ace king, that he will fold it. So I make a half pot size bet, actually maybe even slightly under, 810 into about 17 or 1800, thinking that he's never folding a big pair, but that he will fold ace king. And if you know, count the hand combinations, it's actually a plus EV bet if that assumption is true.
It's one of those interesting situations where he doesn't need to bet more than 800 because my decision is pretty, it's going to be shove or not. So he's actually risking less to find out the same type of information that he would had he bet 1,400, which is basically a concept of something I've been teaching for years, which is small ball, and always understanding that in some cases less is more. And his bet size is perfect because I can't just peel with ace king for 8-10. It's not like he bet 300 on the flop. If he bets 200 or 300, well then I might have to call. But for me, the way I played this hand, I don't love it. It was just the case of us being so deep. I put myself in a weird situation when Zvi got in the middle, forcing me to feel like I wanted to re-raise and get head up with him, and then Brian out of nowhere comes in with a re-raise and really put me in an awkward spot out of position. He made a good read there, and the most important thing there, aside from the good read, was his bet sizing on the flop. I think is a lesson to be learned.
Yeah, if I were to bet more, like Daniel was saying, like 1,400, my bet actually goes from being a plus EV bet to a minus EV bet, because now, I mean, sure, he's still going to fold ace king every time, but he's, if he doesn't fold his overpairs and puts those in, then now I'm not getting nearly as good a price with the money I risk to the money I win, because I'm making a pot size bet, and I basically have to be right 50% of the time instead of 33.